This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream, the stream I do on Sundays, because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's actually sunny-ish where I am, so, you know, the label fits the package, I guess. Yes, hope you're all having a good morning so far, or near on early afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're in. And what part of the world you're in, I think, at least in some way, will be part of the discussion today. But before I get into that, who's joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning? Seftus Wolf, Rotten Corpse, Jaeger Pony, Matt Barnes, Miranda Stone, Brittany Holland, who else is here? Mike Savage, and Q Continuum. Oh my gosh, the whole Continuum? That's like those 6 or 7 people out on that lonely road in Voyager, right? Noah Asensio, Somnambular Nation, Shadowclaw, Keldrig, and I think that's... Robert Pincus just popped in. Hello, Robert Pincus. So for those of you who are here late, quote unquote, or hiding, or in the future, good morning. Yeah, so this article popped up on my Twitter feed yesterday, and the title of the article, which counts as a question to the audience, caused me to be a little snarky, as I am wont to do on Twitter, but snarky with a certain edge of truth to it, at least in my opinion. Now, because of the way that this article gets formatted when by the way, Washington Post, I have a subscription to your website. I have a paid subscription to your website, so I came across this rendering of the article fairly. The problem is that if I were to display the website itself, it has identifying information to my identity on the screen, and that is why I do the PDF. So I'd rather not have like my screen name, which could relate back to something about me on there. So that's why I do this. So anyway, the formatting on this PDF is a little goofy just because of the way that it printed out. But the question posed by our author is, what counts as an American name in a changing nation? And my snarky response on Twitter was, well, I would think any name belonging to an American citizen. Now, yes, that is a snarky response. But I think it has a lot of truth to it. Now, I don't know what angle to this question our author is going to take. Are they talking in a philosophical sense? Are they talking in an etymological sense, as in where a name originates from, just in the case of, you know, the development of language and history and so on? I don't know. But I guess we'll find out together because, and I know this is my cynicism also speaking, my first reaction to this sounds like somebody who's trying to come up with a reason to be offended, a reason to classify people as both victims and or villains, depending on how you look at it. But I don't know. So we'll find out together. Now I'm having to look past the formatting to get our author's name. Marion, I'm going to say Chu Ming Lu, I think, but that part of the name is blocked off. So if I get that wrong, I apologize. All right, so here we go. Oh, and by the way, I don't know how long it's going to take me to go through this article. If it goes very quickly, I do have a backup article to look at, maybe. We'll see what we do on time. I'll go no more than an hour and a half in real time, unless I'm forced to otherwise. Few things signal the challenge America faces as it adapts to its evolving demographics more than a name. Okay. 4 in 10 Americans now identify as non-white, according to the latest census report, and they are transforming what counts as a common U.S. name. Oh, we're just talking about statistics. I see. A common U.S. name. Common U.S. name. Okay. So much so that when Catherine He analyzed census data of 348 million American baby names, between 1880 to 2017 for the Linguistic Society of America, she found that boys are now 4 times as likely to have quote-unquote unique names Who defines that? Defined as novel, non-conventional names. Okay, per 1,000 people, females are almost 3 times as likely to have a unique name. Okay. Quote, that obviously has to do with an influx of immigrants and names from other cultures coming in, he said. I've got news for you. Nearly everyone in this country, in one way, shape, or form, at least on a genealogical basis, is an immigrant. The only, I guess, legitimate American names you could say were those of, well, Native Americans. You mean to tell me that people coming from other places are bringing names from other places with them that might not be... Wow, okay. Translation, in many cases, unique means non-white. Oh, non-white. I didn't know names were assigned to skin colors now. Okay, again, I'm going to go through this as we go, but as my reactions occur, a name can originate from a place on the planet, as in the first recorded history of a name appearing can be in a particular country that has a particular racial demographic, but anyone can be named John. Anyone could be named Barack. Anyone could be named Zhao. If you came across a white guy who had a name of Zhao, it would be interesting, but no laws being broken. If you had an Asian man named John, it'd be interesting, but no laws. But non-white. Okay, well, if that's how you want to see things. Anyway, quote, my parents say I am lucky to have a white name. It is better for my future, said Natalie Sidney Fan, a high school senior from Wichita. Well, I don't know. Are her parents correct? Her parents initially planned to call her Tan, if I'm saying that correctly, but her mom begged for Natalie after Natalie Portman, quote, scared that no one could pronounce Tan. She said, adding that, quote, the struggle to pick the right name is a, quote, a story of survival in America, a story of resilience. Well, yeah, it's also a story of resilience if you're thinking about it in the terms of what are the kids going to call my kid on the playground? Did I say that correctly? And I don't know. I don't know, right? Tan. T-H-A-N-H. Is that the correct pronunciation? Or should I put is there a th at the beginning? And why am I asking this? Why am I asking that? Because I want to get it right. Right? I have the respect of someone's name. I'd like to pronounce it correctly. But okay, they were scared that the name would be debilitating to their child, which of course happens to no one else in the history of forever. Not fitting in, there should be a hyphen there, led me to spurn my full name for many years. Then a wave of anti-Asian attacks pushed me to reclaim it. So you made a conscious personal choice to avoid using your given name, and then you changed your mind. Not because... okay. When I wrote about my journey... Your journey... Okay. Thank you. This is Kyle. Hell, I knew a black guy named Kyle White. I'm so sick of people making everything about race. Also, hello, chat people and scribbles. Hello, Kyle. Yeah, what about Michael Jai White? Right, the actor and martial artist. What about Frank Black and Barry White? What do you do then? What do you do? When I wrote about my journey, more than 1,000 readers wrote in about how their names had affected their stake in the American dream and their sense of Americanness. These readers from all different backgrounds and ages said they faced many of the same questions. Can I call you something else? Where are you really from? What are you? Okay. Some still struggle with the idea that their name is too foreign, too other. Their stories were often triggered by major global events, from wars and terrorist attacks to protest movements, that propelled them to re-examine their names and embark on a slow, often painful journey to acceptance. Many have embraced their monikers and say it's time to reclaim what counts as an American name. It's time for Juan, Emily, and Uzuamaka to all have equal claim. I got news for you, at least in my opinion and in my perspective, they all do. If they're American citizens, then their name is as American as anybody else's, because this entire country is a melting pot. John was imported from somewhere else. I don't know if you know that, but you're not really talking about geography. You're talking about skin color. To me, changing one's name means changing one's identity, and I did not want to do that. Well, that's actually literally what it means. And you did not want to do so don't. No one's forcing you to. Actually, the only time I've ever heard of someone having to be forced to change a name, now I don't know how old this story is, and I'm sure it's not unique per se, but there was something like, and it might have happened in Germany or something. But anyway, some parents had named their kid Hitler. Like the kid's name was Hitler Smith or something. And then the courts came in and like forced them to change it, or they penalized them for it or something like that. But heck, Elon Musk, didn't Elon Musk just name one of his kids like a bunch of letters and numbers or something? Or like Frank Zappa named his daughter Moon Unit. Was it his daughter? I think it was his daughter. Anyway, you can name your kid practically anything you want. And if you don't like your name, you can come back and change it legally, usually unless you're running from the law. I'm not gonna look at the pronunciation of this. Okay, Katerina Vakaslavona Elson. Vakaslavona. Did I get that right? Yekaterina. Okay. Vyacheslavna Elson. Okay, well, I mean, I gave it a shot. It was an honest attempt. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year, Ekaterina Vyacheslavna Elson started to hesitate when asked about her origins. Okay, quote, "Sometimes I'm afraid to say that I'm from Russia," said Elson. Okay, well, I got to tell you, I don't know. I understand that there are jerkwads out there. Obviously, I grew up with glasses on my face as a small child. But personally, I don't associate guilt by origin. It's not a reflex I possess. If someone says, my name is Mikhail Filitov, I don't go, oh, you must be a Putin supporter. I don't have that simple-minded perspective, I guess. So if she encountered this, that's terrible, but that person's an idiot and probably in the minority of most rational people. In work meetings, says Elson, don't you mean Vyacheslavna Elson? Okay. An international business development project manager, quote, "People comment and say, we don't want to have anything to do with Russians." Well, that's stupid. The 33-year-old who emigrated from Russia to Alaska at the age of 13 says she has dealt with finding acceptance of her name since childhood. Quote, "I would just get made fun of for my name and my accent all the time," Elson said. I can't speak as to accent, but the way I talked and my name got me a whole bunch of names. I was name called all the time when I was a kid because I had a funny name, or at least funnier than the other kids at the time, or it easily rhymed with other things. Okay, but people have been more vocal during the war. Some of Elson's Russian acquaintances in Maryland told her their clients dropped them shortly after the invasion. I could see why, because the hype from the government and everything else was to cut off business dealings with Russia. So if there was a belief that somehow they were benefiting Russia, yeah, it would be, again, short-sighted, closed-minded belief. I could see why. That would be unfair and unjust. Yes. Okay. Her first name, Ekaterina, she said, has a Greek origin. Oh, the names originate from different parts of the world, you say. Okay, why do you say has a Greek origin? She was born in Russia. So where does the ownership of a name as pertains to its nationality rest then? I'm very confused. Katerina from Katharos, meaning pure, she said. It's also associated with the Katerina II or Catherine the Great, the Russian empress and Russia's longest ruling female leader, which is really important. Quote, Katerina has always been a struggle for anyone who attempted to read my driver's license. Really? I guess maybe I had the advantage of playing Vampire the Masquerade Redemption because Katerina the Wise was a character in that game. Not that I hadn't heard the name of Katerina before that, but I got used to it, I suppose. I'm just showing my nerdishness here. I haven't even touched my middle name yet, she said. It's Vyacheslav Lavnova. It would take, it's not a common name to my practice. However, in Russia, people will be able to look at that and pronounce it very easily because names sometimes do have cultural and geographical significance as opposed to people who live elsewhere. Okay. Her high school gym teacher didn't even try, instead calling her Elson, the surname of her stepfather who adopted her. Okay. Was that her last name then? Quote, Russian names are notoriously lengthy, which is understandably difficult for people of many different linguistic backgrounds to pronounce. Then why are you... If you understand the origin of the problem for most people, then... Okay. But even the short version of her name, Katya, has been butchered. How much blood was shed? Quote, I was once told by a classmate in middle school, that my name is spelled wrong and should instead be spelled Katya, said Elson. Oh, a child in middle school said something stupid, you say, and you've carried it with you this entire time. Okay. Her cousin has the same first name but adopted Kate to better fit in while attending school in Indiana. That was Kate's choice. No, that was Sophie's choice, pardon me. It was out of sheer stubbornness, said Elson, that she has refused to change her name even when she suspected it was hampering her job prospects. Suspected? Okay. Chose to keep her... Okay. So what is the... It sure sounds like this entire sense of suppression and victimhood is self-chosen. No one is forcing you to change your name. The examples you've given so far are either stupid from children or, as you even admit, understandable based on culture. It looked awful to me. Kate Elson or Catherine Elson, she says, quote, I'm not going to change my name so I can get a job, be somebody else, unquote. And nor should you have to. Do you have evidence that you have been denied jobs on the basis of your name? I guess that'd be my question. Not suspect, not felt, like somebody said, we'd hire you, but your name's too difficult. I want to be treated as if, like, I'm a question mark. Like it doesn't matter what my name is, it doesn't come with a preloaded notion. Yeah. So, author, why did you classify names with a race? Are you or are you not pushing that same idea? Keeverdam, thank you so much. Fundraisers are in chat. I apologize. I'm so laser focused on the article. Yes, everyone, if you'll take a look at the top of the chat box now, the fundraiser links helpfully provided by Keeverdam. Thank you, Keeverdam. To our friends Moonshock and Angry Illinoisian. Each of them have experienced some decidedly disastrous medical situations in recent times, and they could certainly use the help if you have a couple of bucks to spare. If not, no worries, but if you can share those links out on social media, that would also be appreciated. So thank you so much for that. And thank you again, Keeverdam. Apologies for my horse blinders on the article. Okay. Ahmad Ibrahim. All right. Or Ahmed. Well, this is Ahmad. So I'll say Ahmad. Ahmad is such a common name in Egypt, says Ahmad Ibrahim, that when he founded a rock band, 3 out of 5 bandmates shared the name. Okay, it's a very common name in Egypt. All right. Okay. To help differentiate, quote, in Egypt, when you write your name, you write your dad's name, explained Ibrahim. So to those bandmates, he was not just known as Ahmad, but the drummer, but as Ahmad Nasser, adding his father's first name. Okay, well, that's one way to do it. But after the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks, Ibrahim says, he decided it was time for a change. One of the hijackers was also named Ahmad, which means, quote, a person with a very pleasant character, unquote. But, quote, no matter how woke you are, that's what you think of, said Ibrahim, a 33-year-old mechanical engineer. I have news for you, Ahmad. I don't immediately associate people's names with the actions of people that they are not. I don't know what it is about me that is so unique as compared to how you know everybody else thinks, but just because someone else is named Jeffrey, I don't then think that they are a cannibal. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Chicago Mike, thank you so much. I know it was 100 years ago. Harpo Marx's real name is Adolf, and he changed his name to Arthur because of World War I, and his name sounded too German. His stage name came later. And that's his choice. I mean, sure. And I'm not going to say that there hasn't been stressors and pressures in the past, and even today, that people feel as though their name doesn't fit for various reasons. Like, what was Cary Grant's real name? Anybody know what Cary Grant's real name? There's a piece of trivia. Or John Wayne's real name, right? Some of these names, they didn't sound Hollywood enough, or they didn't roll off the tongue, right? Would you rather have Cary Grant or Archibald Leach as your screen name? All right. There was a lot of pressure to change your name because of your career and everything else. I can see that. Stage names, pen names, on and on and on. There are various reasons to change your name. And if you feel uncomfortable with your name because of something somebody else did, I mean, that's your choice, right? And if somebody decides to hold you to account for your name as it associates with someone else, they're the stupid one. But I could see how someone might make that decision, and that's their decision to make. So, okay. But anyway, let's keep going. And that wasn't like a criticism of you, Chicago Mike. It's just sort of like in my mind. If you do a guilt by association philosophy in life, you're the one guilty. I don't know what else to say about that. Ahmed Ibrahim talks about what his name means to him. Oh, there's a audio portion, I guess. Quote, when I think of Ahmad, for me, it's the name that I was called with. Okay. So many times and so many occasions and so many memories. And it's my mom calling my name to share with me good news, or my dad's yelling at me and he's using Ahmed. Like that's usually what got me off bed, like Ahmed. Okay. After the attacks, he began using the name Ed, then Aiden on LinkedIn, Uber, and various dating apps. His online alter egos felt like safer options, he said. His roommate had warned him that, quote, no one wants to swipe right on a terrorist. What the fuck is wrong with people? Okay, well, your roommate was a jerkwad and an idiot. And again, I must just live with a completely unique philosophy or something. I don't immediately associate. Like I knew a kid in high school. His name was Adolf. He didn't change his name. It was the name his parents gave him, and he got shit for it, sure, because kids are kids. But he laughed along with it because it was a joke, and he moved on, and nobody cared. He went by Adolf or Dolph. It didn't matter. I mean, that's okay. When driving for Uber, quote, people would cancel on me immediately just because I'm Ahmed there. How do you know that? Is that what they said? And when I put Aiden in, it just turned around. I mean, I got Burning Man tickets, for God's sakes, he said, referring to a gift from a generous passenger. They gave you Burning Man tickets because your name was Aiden? Okay, quote, my life has been an upward trajectory ever since I became Aiden, and it went from, obviously he's an Arab, to like, ooh, you're ethnically ambiguous, said Ibrahim. I guess if you say so. I can't say. What does this have to do with what counts as an American name again? Ethnically ambiguous. Okay. Ideally, Ibrahim says he would rather define what his name means for himself. Then don't change it. Don't give in to the pressures of other people or to the presumed prejudices of other people. Just keep your name. But it sounds like you think changing your name to Aiden was a plus. Nobody's forcing you to change your name. Quote, I want to be treated as if, like, I'm a question mark. Like, it doesn't matter what my name is. It doesn't come with a preloaded notion. You're the one perpetuating it by living in fear of what you think other people think of you. Just be you. What, am I missing something here? I feel like I'm repeating the plot of every ABC after-school special I ever saw as a kid. Maybe we need those back or something. But that's not always the case, so Ibrahim says he's sticking with Aiden for now. Why? Just... Okay, well... Anyway, quote, these are quotes that are later on in the thing opposite. Quote, it made me sad to ditch the name in the sake of trying to get a job. So after my divorce, I took my maiden name back and use it loud and proud. Okay, context is oncoming, I presume. Aik Hua Leo. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Probably not. Aik Hua Leo immigrated to the United States from Malaysia at 19 years old to attend Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia. Her name was a frequent topic of conversation. Quote, a lot of people are very accepting, no matter what color you are and what you look like and what your name sounds like, she said. But still a few are just not as kind. Yes, the majority of people in this world are generally rational and accepting, but there are jerks out there, yes. Of 16,000 students at the university, Liao was the only one from Malaysia and was often called the egg, the egg girl or the egg roll. She was asked if her parents dropped dishes on the floor to find the right name. How often did any of that happen? What? Okay, her name means virtuous flower, which her parents picked to inspire her. All right. After a gunman targeted 3 Asian spas in Atlanta in 2021, Liao, 51, says she was frightened, especially since her daughter lived close to where the shootings happened. She also thought a lot about the significance of her name again and how it set her apart. Names were, quote, a big discussion in the Asian American community here in Georgia when the attacks happened, she said. A lot of the reporters did not know how to pronounce the names of the victims, and it was as if they were victimized all over again? Wait, mispronouncing a name is on the same level as being shot. Okay. Her name had felt like a stumbling block in the past. After having trouble finding a job, she revised her resume to reflect her married name, Ikwa Williamson, using the last name of her new husband. Quote, with only one change, I received several opportunities to interview and found a great job in an ad agency almost immediately. So you know for a fact that it was the name. Maybe everybody's racist, but with your first name not changing, why wouldn't those same racists... I'm confused. Did you send your resume to the same people a second time and that what happened? All right. Even now, the secretaries in her office keep, quote, a list of how many ways you can butcher my name, she says. They just kind of gave up after 5 variations. Okay, but after her divorce in 2005, Liao says she became sad about having abandoned the name her parents were so proud of. Then take it back. She began using her maiden name again, Liao said, and uses it, quote, loud and proud. Okay, so a problem that sounds mostly self-imposed or self-believed, you then reverse later on. And I don't know. Has her life fallen apart since then? Was she fired from her job? Have things been better or worse as a result? Let's see. What's this? My name should not be what is most convenient for you. Okay. Jaime Gabriel Garcia. Okay. Jaime Gabriel Garcia was attending Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff with Arizona passed the Show Me Your Papers law. Is that what it was? Requiring people suspected of being undocumented to show proof of legal immigration status to the police. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's been so long, I forgot about that. In the months after the law, which was eventually overturned in court, went into effect, Garcia says he was repeatedly stopped by police who peppered him with questions. They asked for my green card, which I don't have, he said. I'm a citizen who was born in the United States. I was asked about where I was born, how long I'd been in the country, how I learned English so well. Okay, well, admittedly, that law was overturned. So it was a stupid law, or at least the way that was implemented. But if you don't have a green card, you have a driver's license, right? Okay. Many people, including the police officers, also mispronounced his name. They probably said Jamie, right? Which Garcia says felt like an attempt, quote, to exert their authority in order to emphasize the otherness of my name. So wait a second. They knew how to correctly pronounce your name, but they were making the conscious effort to mispronounce your name in order to otherize you. So all racists know how to correctly pronounce all names. They're just choosing to say it incorrectly to make you feel bad. I mean, I guess it depends on the context of the situation. I could start rattling off all the things that I was called as a kid, but I'd be giving something away. So, Chicago Mike, thank you so much. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell just as sweet. Yeah. Call it whatever you want. You're still you at the end of the day. But if your name is your name, then your name is your name. If you like your name, great. If you don't like your name, change it. If you choose to change it for dumb reasons, that's still your choice. Right? So where are we going with this again? Garcia was named after his father, a choice his mother and grandmother pushed for despite his father's worries. Okay, quote, I can't believe my parents could have named me... Wait, what? I can't believe my parents could have named me James or something. It would have been so much easier. I would have gotten teased a lot less when I was a kid, he says. Okay, again, I have a not I don't know what you want to say. My name is relatively common. It's not an alien name or something, right? It's not something that is impronounceable with a whole bunch of X's and apostrophes or something, right? Okay. I got made fun of for my name as a kid throughout my entire life up until maybe high school. But even then, occasionally someone from my elementary school days would still come along and use. So being made fun of for your name, even if it was James, kids would find a way. Okay, kids would find a way. But okay. The senior Jaime had shortened his own name to Jim, as was his choice. Quote, he wanted something that he could use as more of an easy transition to develop business relationships with people, said Garcia, who is of Mexican, Salvadoran, and Italian descent. Quote, it wasn't as cultural or political for him where it is definitely is for me. If you say so. But for Garcia, those experiences have pushed him to hold tighter to his name. Then what is the problem? Okay, a lousy law and some jerkwad children gave you a bad time for a while. That doesn't justify it, but it's what happened. And so what? Your name is your name. Don't give in to bullies. I don't know, did this lesson like just fade away over the course of my lifetime? If you give in to bullies, you empower the bullies. Stand up to the bullies. Quote, I can't push my identity down anymore, said Garcia, a public library analyst who joined the Latino Employees Organization in Long Beach. My name should not be what is most convenient for you. You're right. So, okay. His name is also an immediate connection to his family, Garcia says. You don't say, because it's a family name. Unlike his cousin, who was named Kevin and wishes for a more Latino name. Quote, I hated my first name before, Garcia said, but my name is unique. My name is mine, and I'm proud of me, and I'm proud of my parents for having that courage. But you know what? Kevin can change his name. We have mechanisms in this country. You can change your name. You don't like Kevin? Well, then change it to something else. Right? Okay. I think of my name as a badge of honor. If you say so. It sounds a little bit full of yourself, but whatever. You know what my name is? Well, I'm not going to tell you what my name is, but my name is actually my mother's maiden name. This is the story as I understand it. Okay, my parents attempted for several years to have children, and it appeared that they couldn't, right? And so it was a surprise when I, came all the way to fruition, let's say. And this is the story as I understand it. They're in the hospital. They hadn't really thought about names too much. And so my mother, who is zonked out on Demerol after the 36-hour labor she went through with me, because I had to be baked just right. She's zonked out on Demerol. The people are asking, what are you going to name your kid? And my father said something to the effect, again, this might be apocryphal, I don't know, but it said something to the effect of, well, your mother's not using her name anymore, so I guess I'll give it to you. So my first name is my mother's maiden name, and my last name, obviously, is my father's last name. So really, I'm made up of two last names, so I'm practically a law firm. That's one of the three jokes that I know. I hope you liked it. Amanda Ayako Ota. See, I'm having to read the phonetic pronunciation here and trying to do that. Amanda Ayako Ota, okay? America's incarceration of people of Japanese descent, including Japanese Americans during World War II, left a lasting mark on Ayako Ota's family. Okay, some members of Ota's family fought against the Japanese in the 442nd Infantry during the war, while other family members were incarcerated in camps in California. Yes, the Japanese internment was a decided injustice in this country's history. No doubt about it. Around that time, many of them also abandoned their traditional Japanese names for American monikers, she said. Quote, there was a lot of shame around being Japanese back then and a lot of stigma, said Ota. I can believe it. Hiroshi, her grandfather, became Harold. Among her great uncles, Kiyoshi became Keo, Masaru became Bruce, and Tadashi became Bob. All right. They also took other steps to Americanize themselves. They didn't teach their children how to speak Japanese. And when Japanese American families received reparations in the 1990s, her grandparents used the money to take their family to Disney World. Quote, as family folklore goes, they chose that trip because it was the most American thing they could think to do with the funds to prove their belonging, unquote. But Ota says it's time to reclaim her Japanese heritage. You always had it. She always includes her middle name, Ayako, after her grandmother on forms, even when buying plane tickets. According to her family, the word means the fine process of silk, but as a name can mean my precious one, said Ota. Whatever floats your boat. Who has stopped you? I guess that's my question. Who has stopped you? Her mother didn't want to give her an Asian first name. Oh, your mother. Okay. To emphasize that, quote, you are an American, she said. Ota, who is of Japanese, Norwegian, and Irish descent, added, quote, I am in fact very proud to be an American, but it's still important to me to own the fact that I am undisputedly a Japanese American woman and Norwegian and Irish. So you're going to elevate one aspect of your heritage, but not even acknowledge the others? I mean, that's your choice, but okay. The more I learn about how much my grandparents had to abandon their Japanese identity to assimilate, the more important it becomes to me to own that heritage in our world today. Well, here's the thing. You're not Japanese. You're an American. If we're just talking nationality, you've never been Japanese, right? You've always been American. You call yourself Japanese American. You don't call yourself Japanese, Norwegian, and Irish American. I don't know why not, because it's has the same weight to it. Why not just call yourself, I'm an American woman? Why keep separating things out on the basis of nationality? If the idea is to try to reclaim or claim your place as an American, why continue to granular or make your identity or whatever granular? I don't know. It seems a bit counterintuitive to me, but what do I know? I don't know. Let's see. The more I learn about how much my grandparents had to abandon their Japanese identity to assimilate, the more important it becomes for me to own that heritage in our world today, especially with what's going on in the world now. I'm not about to let us lose any more of ourselves or our heritage to the comfort of those afraid of our differences. Fine. Good. Great. Do whatever you like. Who now is stopping you? Your family's decisions to change their name were their choices. Nobody stopped them from doing that. Nobody stopped them from going to Disneyland. The internment camps were a decided crime that, you know, if I had a magic wand, never would have happened. But, okay. Quote, it took me a long time to feel comfortable actually correcting people when they said my name wrong, but I do it and I will continue to do it until they say it right because that's worth it. Okay. Okay. The Nidra Roots. Thanidra? Okay. Thanidra Roots grew up feeling like an outsider. She was placed into foster care after her mother struggled with mental illness, alcohol, and drug addiction. At the age of 12, she was adopted by a white family. Okay. Roots says she began to resent her biological family and decided to change her last name Hunter to Corey after being adopted. It changed again to Roots after she married. I don't understand. I'm missing a whole lot of context for that sentence. Roots says she began to resent her biological family and decided to change her name Hunter to Corey. So Corey was the adopted family's. Okay. Okay. But she kept her first name despite it being constantly mispronounced. Quote, it was one of those things I've always loved, Roots says of her first name. Okay. People struggling to pronounce her name would give up and just use her initials. Others purposefully mispronounced her name so that it sounded like a racial epitaph. What? Okay. There's a lot to unpack here. Now, as far as separating yourself from your family, in a way, I knew a guy who he had a very, very, very terrible relationship with his father. His father was a terrible, terrible, terrible person. And yet, obviously this guy had his father's last name. So at a certain point, things broke down to the point where he's like, I don't even want to honor my father in any way, shape, or form, so I'm going to change my last name. And he did. I can understand that. You know, it doesn't have any functional effect on anything necessarily. It's just sort of sentimental. It's symbolic and so on. I get that. Okay, so you changed your last name, kept your first name. That sounded like a racial epithet. The poverty of my imagination. I don't know what it was supposed to be. Others purposefully mispronounced her name. Yes, having your name be made fun of is a universal experience. My name was made fun of my entire growing up because it wasn't super common and it rhymed with a whole bunch of other things. Quote, I just laugh with the jokes. Oh, so they were jokes? Okay, I wasn't in a position to be able to advocate for myself. Why not? It wasn't safe to say, hey, that's not funny, it makes me uncomfortable, or hey, that's racist, says Roots. Well, you could have. Well, these days it's probably a lot easier. I don't know. When she recently reconnected with her biological mother, the first thing she asked about was the origin of her name. It turned out to be something her biological mother and grandmother made up off her father's name, Theo. Oh, that's interesting. Now, that's an interesting story. During the protests following George Floyd's murder, oh God, Ruth says she remembers feeling a new level of acceptance. Okay, she lived just 15 miles from the Minneapolis street corner where Floyd had died, and as the protests swelled, she raised money and provided groceries, hygiene products, and childcare for protesters. Okay, quote, "It was such a somber experience, but also healing for me to come together as a community over such a tragic event," said Roots. Despite her own struggles, Roots says she purposely gave her sons unique names. I'm going to try that. Sovi, Caius, Myro, and Lior. And she also makes sure her name is pronounced correctly. Okay, "I will correct people every single time they say it wrong," said Roots. "It's who I am. It's like the one thing in my life that has been consistent since the day I took my first breath. My name to me is my entire story, my resilience, my childhood of trauma, my success, and everything now." Wait, that's the end of the article? What? Wait, what? Thank you, this is Kyle. "I had South Park jokes regurgitated at me because of my name. People need to get a thicker skin." What? That's the end of the article. Sorry, Kyle. Exactly. Kids can do anything with anything. All they need is a reference point, or your name just has to rhyme with something silly, and you're done. And you just have to get on with it. But okay, that is the end of the article. There's no analysis. What happened to this question of what the changing American... It's got nothing to do with... Okay, well, Washington Post, you have not surprised me at all. You ask this profound question: what counts as an American name in a changing nation? You give 5 or 6 examples of people who had struggles with deciding whether or not to go by their first name that was given to them, and either assigning a point of national origin to their identity or trying to hide it or something, and then the article ends. What counts as an American name? Whatever name you have, if you're an American. That's as far as I'm concerned. Unless, of course, you're talking about the etymological origin of a name, because then that matters. In the case of our last example, hers is the most American name on this list because it didn't exist. Her mother made it up in America. So really, the most American names on this list are Thanidra and her children. Those are American names. Their origins came from America. The end. No analysis, no follow-up, no commentary by our author. Just, I'm going to relay these people's stories and not say anything about it, not come to any conclusion about it. Like, what did this open up with again? Few things signal the challenge America faces as it adapts to its evolving demographics more than a name. It's evolving demographics. Okay, well, just about, except for I think one instance, just about everybody in this story was born in America from parents that already lived in America. Changing demographics, okay? So much so that when Catherine He analyzed census data of 348 million American baby names between 1880 to 2017, she found that boys are now 4 times as likely to have quote-unquote unique names, defined as novel, non-conventional names per 1,000 people. Well, yeah, if you go back to 1880 to now, translation, in many cases, unique means non-white. Okay, so, and then nothing to follow up this. Just, that's it. You just open up, you give everybody's examples of, in most cases, their own, just self-consciousness or their own fears, their own paranoia about what other people think of them, causing them harm. The only guy that had a legitimate claim to it, perhaps, was Garcia, Jaime. when like the law of the land caused the police to suspect anybody who wasn't white as a potential criminal. He had the most legitimate claim to living within a victimization society at that point, right? Everybody else, it's like, I have a name that's hard to pronounce, and people have a difficult time pronouncing it, and some people make fun of me for it, and other people don't. Oh boy. Okay, well, what time is it? It's almost 9 o'clock. I've been going for about an hour. I said I'd go for at least an hour and a half, so I guess I could use the second article I pulled up. Anyway, let me pause here for a second. What do you guys think about this? If you're listening to this in the future, obviously, please leave a comment. Let's see what you guys in the chat have to say. Meh. The collectivists are the unique people. That's obvious. I guess. Advocast Diaboli, etymologically, American names do not exist. I suppose it in the sense of, since the foundation of the nation as America, yeah, everything has come from somewhere else for the most part, right? But again, it depends on how you define this. Like Theandra's mother made up her name in America. So as far as point of origin, it's as American a name as anything else, I guess. I don't know, but our author just kind of dropped the ball. Like no resolution, no analysis, no conclusion, just the article ends. Q Continuum, I had my name mispronounced in Egypt. It was funny and memorable part of the vacation. Yeah, most people aren't looking to offend you. They give it their best shot. They give it their best shot. Like, I will give this example. Long time ago, I worked at a retail store, I'll say. And this was a store that had like customer accounts already logged into the computer or whatever. And one day, a guy walks in and he gives his member number or his member card number or whatever. It was a video store, not any kind of surprising there. And the name pops up. And there was a two second like analysis of this name. And I looked at it for a second and I realized that it ended with an IER rather than an ER. And I look up and I say, Mr. Charpentier? And his eyes lit up like it was Christmas. He was like, oh, most people say carpenter, you know? And I was just like, I felt really good about myself. I like looked at it. I thought about it for a second. I went through this sort of spelling bee test in my head and I pronounced it correctly on the first try. I was very happy. He was very happy. And I was like, I wasn't sure. I was hoping I wasn't going to say it wrong. He's like, no, that was perfect. And, and we became friends after. It was great, right? But if I had said it wrong or if I had mispronounced it or something, he would have corrected me probably because I would want to know how to say it correctly. And I would have made a note to say it correctly from then on because I'm not trying to other someone. I'm trying to understand someone. If I'm stumbling over a name, it's because I'm trying to get it right. But that's just me, unlike all the racists out there who obviously know how to pronounce it correctly and are choosing to do so otherwise, I guess. Chicago Mike, my name is Michael, and I am named after my Uncle Pat. My parents made the decision to use the American version of my name instead of the Cuban version, Miguel. Okay. And you're Chicago Mike. And I bet kids still made fun of you somehow for your name, right? Oh man. Shadowclaw, believe it or not, I'm walking on it. Oh, sorry. Believe it or not, John, Joseph, Benjamin, Michael, Rachel, etc. are not Caucasian names. They are Jewish. I wonder what the author would say about it. Yeah, again, point of origin versus where you are as a citizen. Are we talking about nationality? Are we talking about race? The author is talking about race. And at various points in the article, the different speakers talked about nationality or having pride in their national origins or their heritage or something. Okay, great. It's a family name. It's the name you were given. Fine. It's as American a name as any other American name because if you're an American, it's an American name. That's my perspective on it. I don't know. Let's see. Bad Bob. My first name is taken from Greek mythology. I caught hell in school for years. Oh boy. Now I'm not gonna ask, but I might guess or something. Is it Kratos? Tell me it's Kratos. His kitten. My married last name always gets mispronounced. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. I mean, fortunately, my name is fairly simple to say, right? It's not easily mispronounced, although it has been misspelled before. But it rhymes with a whole slew of things. Oh man, anyway, I could go on, but I'm not going to. Let's move on to the other article I picked out, just in case this one didn't last for very long. Its stamina was not so girthy. You guys may remember or may recognize the name Ibram X. Kendi. I've done 2 videos that featured Mr. Kendi in the past. One was a TEDx where he was being interviewed on a Zoom call by a couple of ladies, and the other one had to do with him doing a reading of a children's book he had written. He is the author of How to Be Anti-Racist. And what is anti-racism? I'll give it to you in the capsule version, which was explained to me by Mr. Kendi in that TEDx. Okay, and I'm paraphrasing only slightly. Okay, the first thing you have to understand is that racism is a universal constant. It is in everything, everywhere, all the time, at all times, in everyone, no matter what. And that there are only 2 states of being. You're either racist or anti-racist. Racist, you're just a racist. Anti-racist is confession. It's not being not racist. Nobody can be not racist. There's just whether or not you are admitting to it. That's it. That's the definition. You can never cure yourself. You're always just going to have to be apologizing forever. But this headline caught my attention. I haven't read the article yet, so let's get into it. Ibram X. Kendi says a backlash has crushed the nation's racial reckoning, but there's one reason he remains hopeful. Okay. Few scholars have experienced the fickle nature of fame as dramatically as Ibram X. Kendi in the past 3 years. Well, when you base your entire career around telling everybody that they're racist, I can imagine. Kendi, author of the New York Times #1 bestseller, How to Be an Anti-Racist, became an intellectual celebrity in the summer of 2020 after his books became a go-to source for millions of Americans trying to make sense of the murder of George Floyd. Because that's what that book was about. He was awarded a MacArthur Foundation Genius Grant, became a sought-after commentator on race, and helped add a new word to the way we talk about it, anti-racist. The term means to actively fight against racism rather than passively claim to be non-racist. Yeah, sure. Then came a backlash. Kendi's books were banned by some school libraries, and he was accused by conservatives of corrupting children and offering a grim view of America that casts everyone as a racist. Everyone is a racist. If you listen... I listened to the man answer the question, what does anti-racism mean? Everyone is a racist. You just said it yourself. You can't passively claim to be non-racist. There's no such thing as not being racist in the anti-racist worldview. So you've already failed before you've started. He also became the central villain in a GOP-led campaign to purge the teaching of systemic racism in American public schools. Yeah, teaching systemic racism. I'd like you to look up racial affinity groups in elementary schools. And the people pushing those would claim to be anti-racist, by the way. The campaign took off following the massive wave of racial protest that swept across the country in the wake of Floyd's death, which drew the support of many white people, including students. Does that then make it legitimate or something? Kendi says the current campaign against what one conservative commentator calls systemic wokeness is an effort to halt the anti-racist momentum generated by the Floyd protests. Yeah, in calling everything and everyone racist all the time is probably not the best way to move through the world. When asked what happened to that momentum, Kendi gives a wry chuckle. Well, my book sales went down. Oh, wait, what? The momentum was just crushed by a pretty well-organized force and movement of people who are seeking to conserve racism, he says. Of course, the backlash comes from racism, right? The need for your book is because of racism. Anything that happens is racism. It's not that you're pushing racism or segregation or to assess people on the basis of their skin color, or to guilt anybody and their brother into being ashamed of themselves for existing. No, it's that everybody's racist. You see, when your whole philosophy is the world is perpetually racist, you will always be right in saying that you're a victim of racism. Anything that befalls you sidewise is obviously a result of racism, because racism is in every system, in every person, in every organization in the world. So, of course, in some way, shape, or form, it's racism. Quote, who've tried to change the problem from racism to anti-racism, and who've tried to change the problem from police violence to the people speaking out against police violence? Oh, okay. You've done all that? Kendi has written a new book, How to Be a Young Anti-Racist, that could help recapture some of that momentum. Heaven help us. He and his co-author, Nick Stone, have reframed his aforementioned 2019 bestseller, this time for young adults. This version, according to the book's publisher, serves as an instruction manual for youth, quote, seeking a way forward in acknowledging, identifying, and dismantling, racism and injustice, unquote. The book offers those lessons by recounting how Kendi, as a young person, absorbed some of the same racist beliefs he now argues against. The confident professional Kendi that most see in public is replaced in the book by a younger version who struggled with doubts over his intelligence. The book features some of the most personal disclosures of Kendi's public career. Okay. What may be most surprising, though, is the book's tone of optimism. Despite the change in the political climate since Floyd was murdered nearly 3 years ago, Kendi still believes racism can be vanquished. It can't, because there's always going to be jerks in the world. It can be made irrelevant if you stop valuing people on the basis of their skin color. Thank you again, Chicago Mike. Listen to me. I'm a professional victim. Yes. Always and forever. Let's see. Racism believes racism can be vanquished. He says it's not. He says it's not an all-powerful deity that can never be defeated. That's one reason he remains hopeful about anti-racist activism. Well, then the entire anti-racism premise is completely off base then, because I was told by you that racism infests every aspect of our world. It is in all of us and in all things. How can that not be on par with a deity? Okay, quote, racist ideas are not natural to the human mind, he wrote. In the grand scope of human existence, race and racism are relatively young. I don't know about that. Prior to the construction of race and racism in the 1400s, okay, human beings saw colors but didn't group them into continental races and attack wholly made up positive and negative characteristics to said races. That's something we learned to do. So they were colorblind? Is that what you're hoping we get to? Because I've been told, never mind. Kendi is currently a professor at Boston University and founding director of its Center for Anti-Racist Research. Yes, Center for Anti-Racist Research that accepted, 2-3 years ago, a $10 million gift from Jack Dorsey of Twitter. You want to talk about one of the most pricey virtue signaling gestures of all time? $10 million. He recently talked to CNN following the release of his book. His comments have been lightly edited for brevity and clarity. Why? Clarity. Okay. You said near the end of your book that this book stretched you in a way that no other had before. How so? I think because of the depths of vulnerability that I had to reach and what I had to express publicly. It's very difficult to be vulnerable with ourselves and to be honest with those hurtful and harmful things we've said and done. It's yet another thing to be willing to share that with the public and to deal with the shame that other people would know. That's why it was so difficult. So is this a guidebook or is this an autobiography? Sounds like an autobiography. You talk in the book about having doubts about your own intellect because of standardized testing. How did you overcome those doubts? Okay, I got to tell you, it's not just him. Boy, oh boy, standardized testing. Standardized testing told me that when it came to math, I was an absolute moron. Didn't make me feel so good, but I accepted it, and I didn't really pursue a math at all, you know. So it's got nothing to do with race. I didn't fully overcome those doubts until I started rethinking what it means to be intelligent. We have been taught that the more intelligent you are, the better test scores you'll get. It all depends on what you're talking about, I guess. I got great test scores in language. I got terrible test scores in math. I'm bad at math, or I just don't find a whole lot of interest in it. But the more I understood intelligence, the more I realized that intelligence should be defined as a great capacity to know. Okay, and so I knew that I did have a desire to know, particularly as a researcher. For me, it allowed me to better understand my own intelligence. Okay. Are people taught racism, or are human beings born with this instinct to assign value to skin color? Some people think racism is just part of being human. Again, I don't have the link in front of me, but the TEDx he gave where he was being questioned by the two ladies about the definition of anti-racism, listen to his own words. Racism is the universal constant. No one can be not racist. This is hotly debated among scientists and scholars, particularly the instinct part. Based on my research, I don't think that people are born racist or anti-racist. Anti-racism is not the polar opposite of racism. Anti-racists are still racist. It said so at the top. You've said so yourself. Anti-racism is confession. It's not cleansing. It's confession. Anti-racist is just a confessing racist. That's all that means. That's all you've defined it as. Okay. But I think depending on the environment that they are raised in, they go in one or the other direction. They're either a racist or a confessing racist. I think human beings are taught instinctually to protect ourselves. When you grow up in a racist society where you're taught that those other people are the source of your pain, those other people are not like you because they look differently or because they have different hair texture, it can lead to people instinctually wanting to protect themselves from those other people. Yeah. Is there anything in your philosophy that you've pushed that might also align with that notion? Anything? But what if we taught that skin color is as irrelevant as the color of one's shirt? Yeah, what if we did that? What if we did that? So is Ibram X. Kendi a proponent of colorblind philosophy? What if we taught that hair texture is as irrelevant to the underlying person's humanity as the glasses that they are wearing? Yes. Can you imagine that? I can. I grew up with that. What happened? We can teach people to think differently about people who look different to the point where they still see the humanity in that person despite different skin color and hair texture. Wow. Is that what you are teaching people? Is that the underlying premise of your philosophy? Is that what anti-racism actually teaches? Is it teaching skin color as irrelevant? Really? Maybe you should listen to yourself. That's very optimistic. It reminds me of something else I read in your book. You said racism isn't this all-powerful deity that can't be defeated. What did you mean by that? Okay. Researching the history of racism. Who created it? For what purpose? How it's evolved over the last nearly 600 years, how it's spread around the world, how it's impacted people. It's allowed me to really take a step back and see the structure, which then allows me to believe that it can all be deconstructed. Yes, just don't assume to know something about someone on the basis of their skin color. The end. That's just like in the last article about names. Don't assume to know someone because of their name. It's very simple. It's actually a very simple thing to do. Is that what your book has been pushing? Is that what your speeches have been pushing? Somebody built this racism and they're rebuilding it. What? Somebody built this and they're rebuilding it, but you can actually deconstruct it. Anything that can be constructed, like racism, can be deconstructed. Yeah, just stop putting weight on race. Stop talking about racial identity. Stop pushing. In the meantime, what kind of practical advice would you give parents about how they can talk to their kids about incidents like in Memphis, where a young black man, Tyree Nichols, was beaten to death by police officers? Beaten to death by Okay, if we're going to be focusing on the race of the individuals involved, beaten to death by, there's a word missing there. If you're going to make it that important, there's a word missing there in your retelling of events. Okay, first, it's important for parents to talk to their children about what happened in Memphis. It's important because the child is going to ask why. Why did this happen to him? He wasn't doing anything wrong. He kept doing what the officers asked him to do, but they kept beating him. In answering those questions, you have to talk about the pervasive violence in American policing, particularly toward black and brown people. You have to talk about the pervasiveness of racist ideas that imagine that black people are dangerous. What other descriptor would then be important to mention in that story if you're going to make it about race? What? Okay, I think I'm done reading this. Not being given a honest retelling of events in something like that, either by the questioner or the speaker, just avoiding the elephant in the room there for some reason. You're not being honest. You're not being genuine about what you're talking about. And besides which, I'm coming up close to where I'd be wrapping up anyway. But I'll take a moment here for what you guys have to say otherwise. Let's see, while I wait for your comments and things. Let's see, programming note. I am still, fingers crossed, still in the process of, I guess you'd call it booking talent. I don't know. It's like trying to recruit for the next episode of Living on Borrowed Crime, which I'm hoping to do sometime mid-April. It all depends on people's schedules. So working on that. Let's see. The next TED Excellence, of course, will come up next Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, where I'll look at another off-brand TED Talk. But let's see. Let's look at some comments from you guys. Yeah, related to the in-group preference I mentioned earlier. Oh, sorry, you're talking to each other. I apologize. It was just about the men, though. Europe's female heritage is very diverse. The male line, tribal. I'll assume I just popped in the middle of a conversation. Obviously, I did. Darren Root, Scribe Light Star Trek did that. Your shirt is red, then you're dead. Yeah. Your fate is sealed by the shirt you're wearing. It's true. What color is your shirt? Well, let's see. Shadowclaw, this guy doesn't realize bigotry is so old. Father Time beats it just a little. Okay, well, not to be too pedantic, but a little bit. Bigotry and racism, two different things. You can be a bigot and a racist, but you don't necessarily have to be a racist to be a bigot. Bigot is hating someone on the basis of their opinions, whereas racism is hating someone on the basis of their skin color, ethnicity, etc. So, and bigotry isn't necessarily a universally bad place to be. It depends on what opinions you are vilifying someone over. Like, That person doesn't like my sports team. I hate that person forever and they're a terrible person. That's probably irrational, right? That person thinks it's okay to torture kittens. I hate that person with a burning passion and I'll hate them forever. That probably makes more sense. So yeah, the bigotry and racism, two different things. Even though it's incorrect grammatically and by definition, the phrase, the soft bigotry of low expectations, rolls off the tongue very well. It really should be the soft racism of low expectations. But, people conflate these two terms together. And again, I scored better in language than I did in math. So what can I tell you? Advocatus, can we get a TEDx on how to build my own sex robot one of these days? Asking for a friend. I bet there is one out there or will be soon. But if it's of the same quality as how can I build my own metaverse, they're just going to direct you to buying something in a box. So, yeah, probably not. Let's see. Anything else from people? Let me scroll up a bit here. Mike Savage, 2,000 years ago, Romans had a view that you were either Roman or a barbarian. Even the Greeks were barbarians to them. Yeah. Racism, nationalism, whatever separates somebody from somebody else. His kitten, I'm off, have to get ready for work. Bye. I just missed here Scribe's stream. Have a great day. Scribe. Bye, his kitten. Hope you're well. Hope we have a good day at work. Ryan R., what about the hard bigotry of high expectations? I don't know what that would mean. I don't know that I tested high enough on standardized testing for that one. After by the way, it is etymology, not, did I say entomology? I apologize. I meant etymology, not entomology. Obviously, one thing has to deal with the origin of words, and the other one has to deal with the origin of insects. So there you go. See, again, scored high in language. I can't do math to save my life. Anyway, everybody, I'm going to call it there. Yeah, the American name thing. If you're an American, your name is an American name, as far as I'm concerned. Its origins may be all over the place. Its meaning to you may be all over the place. But otherwise, yeah, if you're an American, your name is an American name. I don't know. There's very few people on this planet that have a quote-unquote legitimate American name, right? The last lady in that article has about as legitimate a American name, quote-unquote, etymology-wise, as anybody else in that article. But at the same time, no one else in that article is any less American for not having a name that didn't originate in America, at least in my opinion. And as far as the second article goes, I guess Ibram X. Kendi is now a proponent of colorblindness, right? It's very simple. Let us all move to a place where skin color has as much weight about what you can tell about a person as eye color or hair color. The end. Which is not much. If we get there, we're all better off. It's not that complicated. You don't need to buy a book to learn how to be a confessor of how terrible you are. Just change your worldview. Make it simpler. Don't assume to know anything about somebody on the basis of something that's a non-determinative factor of character. It's very simple. Raise your children the same way. We'll all be better off. Even though I've been told multiple times that that is actually an unhealthy way to look at the world, that it's wrong. Anyway, those are all TEDx subjects for other days. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this little article reads, as it were. Hope you enjoyed it. Oh, by the way, I should mention, as I always almost forget to do, I have a Discord channel now, or a Discord server. Yes, is that what it's called? I'm a boomer. I'm a totes boomer. So let me put up a time-limited link to join the Discord into the chat now. If you hit that link, you'll end up on a landing channel on the Discord that's called Say Hello. And there, if you say the secret word for today's stream, and you're not already a member of the Discord, well, then I and my moderators will know that you watched the show to its completion, which means you're a real fan. And today's secret word is name. So if you go there and just put in name, well, I'll know that you watched the show. And you'll join the Discord and all the exciting stuff going on. So like, oh, Darth Mando just showed up. And now Darth Mando is a Lunarian and can see the other channels. Just happened just then. Live recruitment into my Discord, where people are very pleasant, very welcoming, and nothing controversial ever happens. Fingers crossed. Knock Formica. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. So much. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the fundraisers, thankfully provided by Keeverdam at the top of the chat box, to our friends Moonshock and Angry Illinoisian. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated as always. Everyone, hope you have a good rest of your Sunday. Hope you have a good rest of your weekend. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.